Hi, it's Louise from welshbunnies.com here with my very first Project Life video on Thursday 29th January 2015. Hope you like it. I'm starting midway through this project this week. This is actually week 40 of 2014, so I'm running about 10 weeks behind because I got ill at the end of last year. One of the first things to point out from my sort of way of Project Life is that I've picked a colour scheme. So all the colours of the scheme are represented on this one card with my little Lizzie on it. So it's sort of mid to light orange, or light to mid orange, teal and navy. So all the other colours of the layout match that. I've tried doing it with more of a rainbow colour scheme where I had like all the colours in there, but I find for me specifically that it felt not cohesive enough. So I'm sort of midway through this week. I've picked the colours, I've finished some of these cards. So this card is finished, this card is finished probably, this one is probably finished. It's just got a little om nom nom because she's eating sushi. Now the card that I was working on when I finished up last time was this one. I'm just sort of like midway through finishing this one. So I'm actually at the point of thinking that the orange and the teal are too contrasting, so I'm gonna put this aside for just now and work on all these elements separately, and then put it all back together at the end. But the first thing I'm going to do with this is going to swap this for a navy background because I think the orange is just too contrasting and it just looks a bit too jarring in my mind. So I'm going to go get a 4x6 piece of navy card and then I can show you what that looks like. So here is the card with the orange, and if I take this orange away and then put this navy in as the background, I think that already looks instantly much better. These pictures are kind of washed out because I was sitting taking the picture into the light because the kids were climbing up the sofa to look out the window. So the colours are kind of washed out and I had to do a bit of processing just to get their faces to pop. And I think the orange just sort of washed out what are quite lacking in colour photos, so the darkness makes them pop more. Now even though it's just this tiny little line around the edge, just a very small border, I would prefer that it have a slight pattern on it, and that's just my preference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this pattern stamp. It's a grid one. It's probably my most used stamp because I love just a slight grid pattern. And I've got it stamped in white. So I'm just going to grab my big acrylic stamp block for stamps, and this this is the white dye ink from Hero Arts, which I find is the best of the white inks that I've tried. So just grab a piece of scrap paper. This is some dot matrix printer paper. It shows you how old I am. Actually got this one. Oh dear, that has fallen off my stamp. But if we just work around that, stick this down. Having a bit of an issue here. Now I am quite a casual sort of person these days. I'm not so much of a perfectionist as I was, so the fact that this has gone a bit awry doesn't actually bother me too much, particularly because I literally just wanted a little bit of sort of tiny bit of detail in the background so that it wasn't plain. So I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm going to stick it down. I use an ATG gun for all of my big sticking down photos to mats and all that kind of thing. I've got a couple of the glues I use for detail work. I definitely want this side on the left. There we go. Stick that off in there. God, I didn't realise how squeaky my ATG gun was. And then this one. I think. There. and I'll, these are some new scissors because my old ones ended up getting worn out. So just grab these out of the packaging. Anyway, so I'm trying these ones out for the first time. They're X-cut ones. I used to have honeybee ones, but see how these work out. Seems good. I think that a good pill of detail scissors, like small scissors, are really good scrapbooking tool. Really nice important one. So here we go. I'd like to put a little bit of border on the side. Now, because I've got quite a lot of white already in it, I'm going to grab one of my this pocket pages stickers and look for one. Oh, I've got a little heart in there, but obviously red isn't part of the suit. Let's put that to the side. I'm thinking about maybe I love this. Yeah, I think that looks nice. I tend not to try and think too much about these things because I've got a limited time to do my scrapbooking while my husband takes care of the children. So I used to be quite indecisive, and I find now that I enjoy scrapbooking more if I'm quite decisive about it. So I just make decisions, and then if I don't like how it turns out, I can always just reprint the photograph and try something else. So this one is finished. So moving on to the next one. This card is going to go right next to the picture of the sushi that I made. So I've actually got this amazing stamp set by No.1, which I love, and I've used quite a lot of it already. I've used it a lot for making cards. If you can see here, it says, "I like the way you roll," and "Soy happy for you," and it's got like a soy sauce bottle, some sushi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print these onto white, I reckon, maybe this, and then stamp "I like the way you roll" onto it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of white paper. Right, so I've grabbed my supplies. I use, for any stamping where I'm going to be using water-based colouring, I always use the Stays On because it's super permanent and it doesn't bleed if you do colouring afterwards. Oh. And so I'm just going to stamp that right in the middle. That looks a little bit weak for what I want it for, so I'll stamp this up again. Make it slightly closer to the edge this time. Stamp it down really hard, and that's a bit better. Now, for Christmas, my husband, whom I love very much, he got me this set of, maybe I can, maybe it's not going to do it all, gelatos, and they're from Faber and Castell, and they're these beautiful sort of watercolor oily sort of pastels, and they work really nicely with water, and I really enjoy using them for what I'm about to use them for, which is painting in my stamped images. This set came with this water brush, and I just absolutely love this water brush. I've never used one before, but it's really good for using with these particular things. So I can show you now what it's like. If I just put those there out of the way. So, oh, first I should finish up the stamping. See, I love these little, I love the little lawn fawn sets. They've got lots of little anthropomorphic little, you know, teacups with faces and things. So I'm just going to stamp a couple of faces on here. There you go. This face looks a bit funny. I'm just gonna deal with it. So I love the little faces you get on them. Just carefully put these out to the side so that they don't get lost. So what I'm going to do is going to use the black Faber & Castell very lightly on the nori part, and then I'm going to use quite a vibrant sort of pink on the centre, because we're going to assume that these are salmon rolls. So with this, you just run the water brush along the edge and then just paint straight on to the, and because I've used this Stays On permanent ink, it's not going to bleed at all, not even a tiny bit. Just use that. Now I might add a bit of orange in there as well. Let's just grab some a nice dark orange. Now to get rid of this, the colour that's on the paintbrush, I just paint it like against my hand for a minute, and then it just seems to take all the colour off the end of the brush. And let's grab some orange just to add a bit of extra detail in there. There we go, I think that looks slightly better. Okay. And then I'm going to paint this in, and obviously I don't want it to be black so that'll cover up the faces, but I sort of lightly gather up some black on the brush, and then it'll just be grey, which is kind of the colour that nori is. It's really sort of a dark green, but if you don't know, nori is the seaweed sheets you get on the outside of sushi. So just colouring this in, and I'll just add a bit of shading on one edge of these just to make it a bit cooler. I just realised this looks really like the sort of traditional Lego man faces you used to get when I was little. I know that Lego these days has all these crazy pirate faces and robots and skeletons, but when I was little you just got a yellow head and this face. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my detail scissors and just quickly cut this out. I shouldn't take these Q-tips. And I'll bring back the piece of paper that's going to go onto. Now what I'm going to do here is, so if you can see, is I'm going to leave this little line around the outside of this, because I think that'll look good against the background. Also makes it slightly easier to cut. Like, once again, if you can see here, the stamp hasn't worked perfectly, but I've become much less concerned about perfection, particularly after having 2 little children. I don't have as much time as I used to scrapbook, so as well as being less indecisive and more sort of go-guesser, I also feel like I have to be less perfectionist otherwise I never get anything done. I'm just going to round the edges of this because it's a little bit too sharp to me. There you go. And I will grab the stamp that says, I like the way you roll. Just quickly grab these ones. Now this stamp, I've actually cut it into 3 bits. Don't know if you can see 1, 2, 3. Because I wanted to use it not stacked on top of each other. I think that was for when I was doing a card. But you can just easily fit them back together again. They just, just stack them back the way they were. And it's fine. Now I tend to use this tiny little sort of like 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch acrylic block for lots of my little stamping. And actually this is a little bit too big, but I found that if it's just a little bit bigger than this, it still works out fine. Just ink this up. And I want this to be here and this to be here. There we go. Now, there we go. I'll put this inside. Now, one of the other ink things I use, because this is too delicate a piece to be inked on with my ATG gun, I use this Zig Memory System 2-way glue. It's like a chisel tip. It's really nice. To get it going, you just pump it a few times, and then I use this for all my detail work because it's a really nice glue and it adheres really well once you've got it. Now the nice thing about working with grids is you can just line stuff up on the grid pattern you want. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it looks a bit plain and I would like to have like a border around the edge. I think Now, I think a teal border around the edge would look really nice. So I'm going to grab my set of threads and piercers, and I will prepare to put a quick thread around the outside of this card. These both come from the Amy Tangerine stitching sets, which I love, and I do like to do stitching. I think it looks really dimensional and really makes things pop. Another benefit of the fact that this is a grid of brown paper is that I can just really easily just start, you know, jumping in and stitching. So I'm going to go for a stitch that's two little lines apart on this grid pattern. I just go for it. What I tend to do is if I get to the end, there we go, and there isn't, like, I think it seems like it's going to be a little bit, so I'm just going to shift it a bit. If there's not enough room for it to be exact, like it would end on 3 squares until the end, so I can't actually fit 2 in. I just fudge it and go sort of halfway between. See, with this one, there isn't really enough, so I just pick where I want it to go and then sort of go halfway in between. And then just, oh, that looks like it's going to be too slightly. And once again, I'm not being super strict about it, just sort of going with the flow. Yeah. Then do the last line up here. So the things that I really like to do in scrapbooking are, I use a lot of stitching. I do a lot of stamping these days. Oh, I've forgotten to grab a needle. Let's grab one from here. So I like to do a lot of stitching, a lot of stamping. And there are certain stickers I like. Now I tend to use about an arm's length. I don't know if you can see. So I take it from sort of my wrist. You can't see, but I take it up to my, like, the top of my arm. That is how long a thread I will use to do stitching, which I suppose is left over from when my mum taught me to sew. When I was being taught to sew fabrics and stuff as a child. So then I don't make a tail in it. What I do is just grab a hole and then I leave about an inch. And what I'm going to do is, usually when I'm finished, I'll do all of it, I'll use washi tape to anchor that down. Because I find that makes it less bumpy than if I tie a knot in. And so then I like to do this kind of stitching where I do sort of get knotted up a little bit. I do stitching not where it's fully stitched, not a lot of the time, but where it's like this, one on, one off. And I like how that turns out. So this shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. To just quickly stitch this up. Well, I've been doing, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been doing scrapbooking since about 2007. And back then I used to scrapbook holidays in a 12x12 scrapbooking album. And then in 2012 I had my first baby, my little girl Naomi. And at that point I moved to, still sort of occasionally working on 12x12s, but I moved to smash booking. So I have a few like 8x6 albums because I thought I couldn't scrapbook in the 12 and 12 size fast enough to keep up with how fast she was growing. And then so like October in 2013 I moved to doing Project Life, which is my favourite way of scrapbooking these days. I still do 12x12 for like big holiday albums. And I will make mini books as gifts, and I think they're amazing gifts to give people. But Project Life is my main sort of day-to-day scrapbooking and how I keep up with how fast my little bunnies are growing. And so I've collected quite a lot of supplies over the years, because I like to collect scrapbooking supplies as well. But it's actually really easy to scrapbook with very little supplies, and I have to go away for work sometimes for maybe a month away from home. And I'll just pack myself a little kit of like the things that I consider to be staples, and I can do my project life for my scrapbooking with just a, you know, with a vastly diminished supply of stuff if I just pack the right tools. So if you can see now, we're almost finished this, and it's hardly taking any time at all. Just to quickly stitch out. And oh good, it has worked out that that's good. Sometimes it doesn't always work out that there's a gap. If it hadn't worked out that there was a gap and actually they joined, I just tend to put an embellishment there to cover up where it's not working. So I'm just going to snip off the end and put my needle away. I have to be really careful these days with my needles because of the children, because they just get in everywhere. And that's it. I'll just grab just kind of searching for my washi tape. So I'm just using this washi tape, and I just grab about an inch of washi tape and just fold these down and stick that on. And this I really like. I think that this is the line outside the outside makes it pop, and it sort of frames it, but also it means there's not quite so much like white space on this card. So I'm really happy with that, how that's done. And it's next to it's going to be on my project life next to this picture of my two little Welsh bunnies on their little scooter. So it's a nice little pun on the fact that they're rolling on their little wheels. If I just grab this card, which is going to be my, I'll just put this piercing out of the way now. This is going to be my week card. So this is the card that I'll say that it's week 40, and I'll also put the dates. And I always use my Dear Lizzie date stamp to do the dates. So because this is a dark navy thing, I know going into this that I'll want a strip or a partial strip of a lighter colour, like the orange or the teal, to put the date on. I think this was the very first date stamp and I just absolutely loved it. And I've gotten so much use out of this thing for smash booking and for project life, but I always use this to put the dates on. I very rarely use anything else because it's so simple and easy just to stamp the dates on. So I have, what I'll do next in this process is I can decide if I want to use any of my lettering. So I've got this box, this is my box of lettering. I really feel like I should downsize because I think there's a lot of the letterings in here that I don't actually use. But this is just a plain box from IKEA, so it's just one of their plain boxes, and so I can look through my box of lettering and decide if there's anything in particular, any letterings in particular which match. I've got an idea of what I might like to use. All this I have somewhere in here, maybe, if I can track it down. Oh, I didn't find it on that go through. I'll go through again. So generally when I come to this point, I've got quite a good idea of the supplies I have. And so I'm looking in particular for some thickers that are teal coloured. They are in fact the twin of this set, which is, I don't know which set this is actually, it doesn't say on it. It says charcoal. Well, it's charcoal colour, but I really like this sort of scruffy pencil drawn sets. It was one of my favourites. So I got it in the black and the teal. Aha, there we go. So here we go. So I'll put this box away. And if I look at it, I can see that I've already used 2 E's and a K, because I've obviously already used this on a different week. I think this is going to look fine just straight onto this background, but I would like to use like a pale orange on here, I think, to include, because I quite like to include all of the colours on my card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scrap basket, look for some scraps of light orange, and then cut out a scrap, and then have a bit of a think about what other embellishments might like to accentuate the line I'm going to do. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going to my box of embellishments, or ribbon and washi tape. So in here I've got a whole bunch of different ribbons, a lot of American Crafts one, and then different washi tapes, a little bit of glitter tape. And I grabbed this. Now I don't know, it's sort of like an orange net. Now I don't know what it's called or where you would get it from, but I bought this in a German supermarket in about 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. But what I'm a big believer in finding sort of random things and using in the scrapbooking, because this then makes my scrapbooking quite personal to me. So I'm not just using the sort of products that are readily available, but just other stuff that I happen to find and think looks cool, which is why there isn't any ephemera in the week I'm showing you this week, but I keep ephemera like receipts, ticket stubs, and I like to use that a lot. Now, what I'm planning to do is to stick this down and then put the week on top, but I do want, as I said, to make a space where I can do the dates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick some, and I'll just tear it. I'll just tear this this washi tape. So that should be enough. And I'm just going to stick this here, following the line, and then just curve it over. And then to match on the other side, I will, I think on this line, and I'll just do a little bit on that line so that it sort of matches. This is the line. Yeah, there we go. Now I've worked with this a couple of times before since I bought it, and the way to attach it is with a stapler. I use Tim Holtz stapler, mini stapler. There's an American Crafts version as well. I assume they're the same, but it is very useful for attaching strange substances, strange textured things. Also, it's a nice detail. I would definitely recommend getting one of these. Now you can't really see the staples on this once you're finished very well, so I'm just going to add a couple of staples where you're probably not going to see them, just along the edge, just to make it. Now, simplest way to trim off the edges. Oh dear, it's my mobile phone going off. I'll have to remember in future to turn it off. I just trim the edges off using my scissors. Just clean out the excess. There we go. And I think it's a nice texture, and if I think it looks a bit bumpy, then I just grab this and stick another one in, because you really can't see the staples when you're looking at it because it's quite busy. Now I'm going to add the week 40 in this corner. Just using a rough guideline. Now, it's not going to be perfectly straight because this is quite a mobile, fluid sort of background that I'm sticking to it. Week 40. And now I'm going to grab my Dear Lizzie and add the dates. Now I've got the dates written down somewhere. It's the 29th of September to the 5th of October, and I'm going to stamp it here. So September 29, and I've got the wrong year because I've used it already once this year. And so 29th September, and I know that I'm going to be stamping the other one, so I'll just leave the room there. September 29 to the 5th of October. October 05. Stamp it up. Go there. There we go. Stick that down carefully. And there we go. And I will like to add a little dash just to represent the fact that it's going from September to October. There we go. And there's my week 14. Now I tend to like having like an embellishment or a sticker or maybe some journaling or a little picture, but I think actually this netting is such a statement and quite bold that it doesn't need anything else. I quite like how that looks. It brings a lot of texture to the page. So I'm going to leave that, and then we've got one last card to do. Teal pale grid pattern as the background. And now this card is going to be going next to this card, which I love, and it has a picture of my little baby. She's wearing a t-shirt saying "This baby rocks" and wearing my pink headphones, and she looks like a DJ and super cool. So I want to highlight the fact that this t-shirt says that this baby rocks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. I'll put this back, but just to say what I'm putting in my album for my project life, I'd like to put a card here that then draws the attention into the picture, or the particular part of the picture that I really like. So I'm going to grab my strimmer. I use this Biscars. It's really good. It makes things much quicker. Just because you can just line up here 4 inches. Is that? And then just line this up 3 inches. That. Now, if I can just grab my corner rounder. There are loads of different corner rounders in the market. Now I have a mixture of rounded corners and non-rounded corners, and I really don't mind. I just go with what seems right for each bit of the page. But I tend to do rounded corners for paper elements and straight corners if it's just a photograph. Now this is a little Pokemon. It's a little sticker of a Pokemon called Pachirisu. It's a little squirrel type Pokemon. Now I love Pokemon, unapologetically and unironically just love Pokemon. When I went on honeymoon we went to Tokyo, and I went to the Tokyo Pokemon Center. That was many years ago now. I think Pokemon are super cool, and they're a really cute element. They're just little cartoon things. Now what I want to do is have this little guy having a little speech bubble saying hashtag "this baby rocks." And then I'm probably just going to put in a little arrow to point to the picture that this is referring to. So I think this might be the first time I've used these. Oh no, it looks like I have used them once. They are Lawn Fawn, and I really like Lawn Fawn lettering for Project Life because they do a lot of these small alphabets with multiples, so it's really easy just to grab your, I remember where I put your acrylic block and write out what you want to write. So here's the hashtag. Then I grab this. Just quickly put these down. I can hear my little baby having a little bit of a moan in the background while my husband looks after him. Now I'm gonna, if I just look how that hashtag can just be. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset the baby underneath. So I'm gonna grab some bees. I can get them off here. Just grab the letters. Now I'm going to offset it by 1. So I'll put the B under the T. I think that'll look good. And it'll sort of use up more of the... It'll give more interest, I think, if all of the letters were straight up and down on here. It would look less interesting to the eye. There we go. And then rocks. So I just remember how to write that. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I'll offset this once more again. Oh dear, I can't hear my little one. Sounds like my 2.5-year-old little girl. So she's a bit upset by something. So here we go. There we go. Just finish putting these down. Just sort of, and what I'm doing here is I'm just sort of lining up it with the line. So this, having a lined acrylic block can be useful for anything. And then when I line this up, yep, that's going to be great. I'll grab my StazOn, or I could use my Distress ink. I think I'm going to use my Distress ink. The reason being that the StazOn dries very quickly, so it can be hard to get it onto the page fast enough, whereas this is much more slow drying, and I tend to get a crisp result. But I will always use the StazOn ink if I'm working on washi tape or photographs, or if I'm going to be using any water-based products anywhere near the stamping. Oh, that looks really cool. So, and then what I want to do is I'm going to draw a little speech bubble, but I want to check how it's going to work. So, simple tip that probably a lot of you know is that if you're not sure about adding something, then you can just trial it by using a piece of acetate, and this is just would it look better like that? This is just the acetate off this thing. I don't mind that it's okay. So I think that looks quite good. So I'm just gonna draw that now. Hopefully what I drew there. There we go. That's super cute. Now this is a Pokemon sticker that I got free a long time ago, so it's actually not that adhesive. So I'm going to use the third type of adhesive that I use, which is this permanent roller sticky thing, just to add a bit more glue to the sticker, make it stick. So again, using these sort of non-traditional things just to like stickers and stuff, I think it makes it more personal. Now I'm going to put this one into the thing and bring it all back, because what I always do at the end is I look and see where things are missing in the layout, to see what looks a bit bare, what looks like it needs a bit more embellishment, before I finally declare a spread finished. So I'm going to put it all back and then see what I think needs adding. So here we are at the end of the week, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. I think it looks really cohesive. I especially like that I've got this nice picture of my cat Jeeves, and it also blends into the sort of fish and sushi thing, so that's quite nice. Now what I'm looking at is looking for anything that I think feels unfinished, and I've got some wood veneer here and some wood veneers here, and I really want to have an arrow pull this in. So I'm going to grab a wood veneer arrow and place it on that card, just to have another little place with wood veneers on the page, but also just to really accentuate that we are. That one looks a bit big. Let's see if I've got a smaller one. Nope. See what I've got around. here we go. I think this might be the right size. Yeah, there we go. And that just sort of brings in like another element of wood veneer. So I'm just going to grab this my permanent roller. That's the easiest way that I found to like get these to be sticky. Stick that down. There we go. Now I've got some little sparkles on this one, but that's it. And I feel like this feels a little plain, so I'm going to grab my stickles. Now I really like these, and this is the only colour I have is this one, which is the teal lagoon colour, and I don't have any other colours, but I've used it quite a lot since I got it. So I'm just going to take this particular card, don't know if you can see this here, and just add drops of stickies around this heart. I just tend to create a little triangle around the embellishment. And then because I saw this on a YouTube video, I pick it up and then I just sort of flick it like this, but just sort of flick like that, but underneath, and it just sort of flattens it out a bit. I'll just leave that to dry. There we go. And then I'm really happy with that. I like how it looks. This might need a bit of extra glue on it because it's having difficulty sticking down to the netting. But I'm really happy with how this looks. And so that, I'm going to call this done. That's it for this time. I'll be back on Monday the 2nd of February with another Project Life video. Until then, if you want, you can check out my website, welshbunnies.com.